Benjamin woke up in the hospital after lying there for 6 years. My husband left me and cared for another woman affectionately for half a year. I was diagnosed with ALS, and my life began to count down. Upon learning about my condition, the man who had been stingy with even a minute of his time towards me knelt by my bedside, eyes red from crying. Benjamin completely fell apart, but I no longer cared. Chapter 1. When Amelia called, I was about to blow out birthday candles. Benjamin frowned, wanting to hang up, but the 2 words displayed on the caller ID froze him in place. He looked at me, his gaze calm and unwavering. "Eva, I'll take this call. Can't it wait until after I make a wish?" "Sorry," he replied, firm and decisive. The words almost slipped out, but he swallowed them. Between Amelia and me, he always chose the former. This was the 6th year of my marriage to Benjamin. Our story is quite cliché. I have always had bad luck. I am an orphan, once adopted by the Morgan family only to be kicked out because of Amelia. When I first started working, accompanying my boss to a normal business dinner almost turned me into a sacrificial lamb for power and favors. The boss hinted at me accepting the unwritten rules of the other company. Young and stubborn, I resisted fiercely, and the 2 slaps that followed left my ears ringing. If it weren't for Benjamin's chance appearance, my life might have ended that night. Love at first sight is probably like this, a momentary palpitation, followed by infatuation and blindness. Come to think of it, Amelia and I look about 5 or 6 points similar. Now that I think about it, this might also be the reason Benjamin and I rushed into marriage. It took me 6 years to slowly make my way into his heart. But it wasn't until Amelia woke up from her sickbed that I realized all my efforts had been in vain. Amelia found him, so he wasn't even willing to give up a minute for me to make a birthday wish. Chapter 2. I didn't blow out the already lit candles. Through the candlelight, I saw a faint smile on Benjamin's face. As if he was soothing the person on the other end of the call. We weren't far apart, so I could hear his words clearly. "Fell down. How could you be so careless during rehab?" "Yeah, I got it, I'll come over." Ending the call, he walked towards me, his eyes showing a hint of hesitation. "Eva, I need to go out for a while." Knowing the answer already, I asked. "Where are you going?" He didn't reply, just brushed a stray strand of hair off my cheek and lightly kissed it. It may be because he stood on the balcony for too long just now, there was a night breeze on his body, making me unable to help but step back. "Something came up, you should go to bed early." "Oh right, the gift is in the bedroom." I held on to him. "I haven't made a wish yet. I'll make it up to you next time." I called out to him. "But I want to make it today, now." Benjamin paused for a moment, slowly turning around. Furrowing his brows, he looked at me. "Eva, don't be stubborn." I scoffed. "In such a hurry to go see Amelia?" He looked at me, slightly impatient. "You don't always have to target Amelia." I turned my head away, feeling a bit sour in my eyes. "You're always so biased." Benjamin walked towards the door without saying a word, leaving only his retreating figure. The candle burned to the end, the cream was obviously sweet, but I felt bitterness at the back of my tongue. Chapter 3. I never expected to receive a WeChat message from Benjamin in the middle of the night. Benjamin has a habit, ever since we got married, no matter where he is, he always sends me a message before coming home. I have shallow sleep to begin with, but my phone is almost never on silent. In the past, no matter how late it was, whenever he was coming home, I would get out of bed to make him a bowl of hot noodles or dumplings. Usually, at times like these, he had just returned from a business dinner, or from a business trip. Even when tired, I always felt happy and content at those moments. The person I loved was right by my side. But the scene before me brought me back to reality in an instant. Unlike the usual messages, this time it was a photo. In the photo, Amelia was smiling sweetly, looking down at Benjamin, who wasn't looking at the camera. Benjamin was crouched down, massaging Amelia's legs with a focused expression. Amelia was being well cared for, you couldn't tell at all that she had been a vegetable lying in bed for 6 years. Then there was an extra line on the phone. Benjamin's dumplings are delicious. Looking at the unremarkable bowl of dumplings in the photo, my fingernails involuntarily pierced into my flesh. Benjamin couldn't cook. Even the recipe for those dumplings was taught by me. He used the kindness I showed him on another woman. Amelia didn't need to say anything more, a single photo was enough to show everything. They were the loving couple. But I stubbornly refused to let Amelia have her way so easily. Chapter 4. The disappearance of feelings is indeed not instantaneous, but accumulated through disappointment. I didn't know about Benjamin and Amelia's past. It wasn't until half a year ago that I found out the whole truth. I have been disappointed and I have questioned. Benjamin appeared too honest, so I believed he still had me in his heart. But how strong is the power of first love? A is always A, and B can be anyone. Amelia is A, and I am anyone. The clock in the living room struck 3:30 in the morning. As expected, Benjamin did not return. I chuckled in self-derision. Eva, what are you still expecting? I cleared up the remaining cake on the table and turned to go upstairs. Suddenly, my legs weakened, causing me to fall down the stairs without warning. The temperature of the floor instantly took me back to that chilly morning half a year ago. During the first week after Amelia woke up, Benjamin and I fell into an unprecedented Cold War. During that time, my emotions were bad, my day and night were reversed, and my body showed abnormalities. I thought it was a minor ailment. Unexpectedly, I was diagnosed with ALS. My body will slowly lose sensation until I end up lying in bed like a vegetable. If I'm lucky, I might live for another 2 or 3 years. It really confirms the old saying, good people don't live long. Chapter 5. When the first light of dawn spilled in, Benjamin returned. He silently embraced me from behind. The warmth on my waist reminded me of the hands that massaged Amelia's legs. A surge in my stomach made me twist my body and struggle. Benjamin's grip suddenly tightened. His voice sounded faint, like mist enveloping a distant mountain. Did I wake you? No, I have always had trouble sleeping. Why aren't you sleeping earlier? I didn't answer, and the strength in his hands suddenly paused. The reason, we both knew. After a long silence, Benjamin was the first to break it. Want wonton for breakfast? I'll make it. There was a hint of coldness in my voice. No, looking at wonton recently makes me nauseous. Benjamin's voice came from behind, with a touch of weariness. Eva, are you still sulking? You're overthinking. As I got up to leave, he grabbed my arm. Eva, the person I married is you. But is the person you love me? I opened my mouth, but in the end, nothing came out. After intense arguments and cold wars half a year ago, we tacitly avoided mentioning Amelia, maintaining a delicate balance. For the first time, I saw Benjamin compromise and show weakness. Even though it was because of another woman. My rational mind told me I should leave the person in front of me. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. 6 years of emotions ultimately made it difficult for me to let go. But now, I suddenly felt so tired. Both of us were holding our breath. It was hard to swallow and impossible to completely spit out. After a while, I slowly replied. I know. My voice was very soft, so soft it sounded somewhat perfunctory. Benjamin looked at me, his eyes revealing no discernible emotion. He suddenly pulled me close, planting a passionate kiss on my lips. I didn't respond with a kiss like I used to. He bit my tongue lightly in dissatisfaction. Warm breath brushed against my nose. I didn't accompany you blowing out candles and cutting the cake yesterday, my bad. Let's find a time to make it up to you. I turned my head away. No need to bother. It's not a bother. When it came to Amelia, he always preferred to mix criticism with affection. Chapter 6. He held me for a while before heading to the bathroom. Out of habit, I picked up his discarded jacket, and a necklace slipped out. A pendant shaped like the moon. I hesitated. I knew this necklace belonged to Amelia. Back when I hadn't left the Morgan house yet, I saw her wear it for quite some time. She hadn't changed, still fond of these little tricks. Just like before, using all sorts of clever tactics to please me, then bullying me. I tossed the necklace into the sink. Just looking at it dirted my eyes. After breakfast, Benjamin hurried off to the office. I changed my clothes and got ready to go out as well. I have worked at a design company for 4 years, and today is my last day at work. The progression of my illness is quite complex, and no one can predict when it might suddenly worsen. It could be next month, or maybe it could hold out until next year. Although this company is not large, the boss and colleagues are all very easy to get along with. So when they invited me to participate in the last team building event next week, I didn't refuse. On the day of the team building event, the boss decided to have dinner at a famous Cantonese restaurant in the local area. This restaurant, Benjamin used to take me here frequently in the past. Perhaps it's fate that our paths crossed again. I saw Benjamin and Amelia. My husband of 6 years was attentively helping another woman with her food. Amelia, who used to be a pure and innocent girl, had now transformed into a delicate and sickly beauty. I intended to pretend not to see them, but Amelia noticed me. "Is that Eva?" Her voice wasn't exactly soft, and both my colleagues and Benjamin looked towards me. A colleague asked me, "Is she your friend?" I pursed my lips and replied, "No." "You two go ahead, I'll join you in a moment." I walked over, and Amelia looked at me with feigned surprise. "Eva, what a coincidence. Long time no see, you also came here to eat?" Seeing me silent, she looked between Benjamin and me before speaking again. "But I remember you don't like Cantonese food. This place tastes good, we used to come here often with Benjamin. Let me quietly recommend these dishes on the table, they're all good." Amelia casually and matter-of-factly talked about their past together. Chapter 7. I glanced at the dishes on the table, all very familiar because Benjamin loves ordering them. Benjamin paused, looking at me. "You don't like Cantonese food?" I didn't deny it. "It's true, I don't like it. I prefer spicy Sichuan cuisine over the mild flavors of Cantonese food. When we were newly married, I always unconsciously catered to his taste. Over time, he started to think that I loved it too. But not once did he directly ask me. Turns out, Amelia likes it too." I looked at him, my gaze calm. "I really don't like it." There was a momentary stiffness on Benjamin's face, as if he didn't know what to say. Amelia smiled faintly at me, feeling triumphant. But Benjamin couldn't see it. In a teasing manner, she said to Benjamin, "Benjamin, you've been married for 6 years, right? How come you don't understand your wife at all?" Benjamin looked at me and pursed his lips. I interrupted him. "You guys enjoy your meal." I didn't eat dinner and found an excuse to leave. As I walked away, I saw the conflicted and hesitant expression on Benjamin's face. But in the end, he chose to stay. My nose felt a bit sour, and my heart felt like it had been exposed to the wind. It really hurt. Chapter 8. Suddenly, a heavy rain started on the way home. The rain in late autumn brought a chill. I was already sensitive to the cold, and my immune system had noticeably weakened after getting sick. Within a few hours of returning home, I developed a fever. I lay on the bed dazed, dreaming of some unpleasant past events. I was adopted by the Morgan family at the age of 6, becoming Amelia's nominal younger sister. Life in the Morgan family was not pleasant for me. The initial intention of my adoption was not rooted in familial love and hope. It was purely to shield Amelia from disaster. Yes, to shield her. Amelia had been frail and sickly since childhood. Her mother, superstitious, consulted a renowned local master. The master advised Amelia's mother to find a girl of the same age with a similar fate as Amelia to keep by her side. The aim was to deceive evil spirits and divert misfortune. Amelia's mother believed it. Using their influence, the Morgan family found me in a nearby orphanage and brought me home. On my first day at the Morgan household, she looked at me excitedly and said, "Great, now Amelia can grow up healthy and well." From a young age, Amelia's mother told me, Whenever there is trouble, you must stand in front of Amelia. If there is danger, you must shield Amelia. If anyone bullies Amelia, you must defend her. You should be grateful. So much so that after the incident with Amelia, the Morgan family didn't blame the driver responsible, or Amelia's drunken driving. Instead, they questioned why I hadn't shielded Amelia from this disaster. I was covered in cold sweat. It was only after waking up from the dream that I realized it was all in the past. Eva, you've long overcome this, I told myself. Chapter 9. Illness always makes people feel especially vulnerable. In the middle of the night, Benjamin's voice once again pulled me out of my memories. Eva? I didn't have the strength to respond. Benjamin came over, his slightly cool palm touching my forehead. Eva, you have a fever. I took medicine. You're burning up, get up and go to the hospital. Benjamin's tone was somewhat anxious. I wrapped myself tighter in the blanket. I'm not going. Don't be stubborn. You know, I don't like hospitals. Benjamin fell silent, looking at me somewhat displeased. I'm really fine, the fever has gone down a lot. He glanced at the scattered medicine bottles on the bedside table. The packaging on the bottles had been torn by me. I lied to him. It's just cold medicine. He sighed. You shouldn't mix medications like that. It'll get better soon. Why didn't you call me? My voice was soft. Aren't you with Amelia? He tucked the blanket around me and his tone was slightly unhappy. Why do you keep mentioning her lately, Eva? Amelia won't change our relationship. What relationship do we have now? Of course, we're married. Suddenly, I asked him. Do you remember the wish you made to me on our third wedding anniversary? Benjamin's expression showed a hint of confusion. He didn't remember. Indeed, it was just something he said casually back then. You promised me we would never divorce. If Amelia hadn't had the accident back then, would you have married her? He looked at me for a while and replied lightly. Eva, that hypothetical scenario is meaningless. The atmosphere hit rock bottom once again. I turned away from him, wrapping the blanket tightly around me, feeling like a cord in my heart had been completely severed. I think I know the answer. In fact, ever since the day I found out about Benjamin's past with Amelia, I haven't been without fear. But 6 years of marriage still gave me some confidence. I consoled myself, everyone has a past, it's just that Benjamin's past happened to involve Amelia. But I still overestimated myself. Perhaps there have been too many disappointments. Now, I'm not as upset anymore. Chapter 10. This flu came on so strong, dragging me along for over a week. I don't know if it's out of guilt, but this past week, Benjamin has been staying home with me. Occasionally, I would hear him talking to Amelia on the phone, although he tried to avoid me as much as possible. Even when he's by my side, he hasn't completely let go of Amelia. The weather hasn't been great during this time, with a rare sunny day. I was sunbathing in the garden, feeling like spring is coming soon. Suddenly, I got interested. Benjamin, let's go on another trip in the spring. He hesitated for 2 seconds and said. Let's go next year, I might be quite busy in the coming months. My smile faded. I forgot, it's a critical time for Amelia's rehabilitation. Benjamin has to be there for her. But, will I be able to see the next spring? My condition is getting worse and the episodes are becoming more frequent. I spend almost the whole day sitting in a chair, trying to avoid letting him notice anything unusual. Benjamin handed me a glass of grapefruit juice. I remember you used to hate the spring the most, why do you want to go in the spring every time we travel after getting married? I tilted my head back, using my hand to shield my eyes from the slightly dazzling sunlight. Indeed, before meeting Benjamin, I truly hated spring. I remember being abandoned at the orphanage in spring. Dad said he was going to buy me cotton candy from across the street, but he never came back. And it was in the spring that the Morgans adopted me. Also in the spring, the Morgans kicked me out. It seems like all my misfortunes start in the spring. I looked at him with a smile, my gaze somewhat distant. But I also met you in the spring. I saw something melting in Benjamin's eyes. Those eyes that always seemed emotionless were now looking at me with warmth and intensity. Like the warm and bright sun today. Benjamin lowered his head and kissed me gently. He held me, and we couldn't see each other's expressions clearly. In that moment, a thought flashed through my mind. I whispered in his ear. Benjamin, can you love me a little more? It's been a long time since we've been so calm and peaceful with each other like today. In a daze, it felt like we had traveled back to the first 2 years of our marriage. He hugged me tighter, his voice slightly trembling. Okay. I raised the corners of my mouth. Will you feel more pain when I'm gone? I'm not that generous. I want you to be haunted by my departure in your dreams at midnight. Whether you can't forget or can't let go. This time, it's your turn to watch me leave you countless times. Chapter 11. In the blink of an eye, it was Benjamin's grandfather's birthday. We arrived back very early. He helped me out of the car. I sprained my foot when I fell during a flare-up 2 days ago. How did you hit it so badly? I casually replied. Just happened to twist a ligament. He furrowed his brow slightly. Go back to your room and rest, we'll talk later tonight. I didn't refuse. Indeed, my legs couldn't support me anymore. He didn't come to see me at night. Many people came, he must be busy. A servant helped me down the stairs. Through the bustling crowd, I saw Benjamin and Amelia at the door. Amelia, in a white dress, sat in a wheelchair greeting guests, while Benjamin leaned down to listen to her. There was a relaxed smile on his face, and they looked like an intimate couple. In contrast, I, the rightful wife, seemed like an outsider. I wanted to escape. But I walked over. Benjamin, I called behind him. He stood up straight, a hint of surprise in his eyes. As if he didn't expect me to show up suddenly. He took my arm from the servant. Is your foot not hurting anymore? Much better. Benjamin stared at me and his hand on my waist tightened. The people who were just chatting and laughing fell silent when they saw me. Someone spoke up. Miss Morgan. Polite yet distant address. It's Miss Morgan, not Mrs. Waters. Even though everyone knows about my marriage to Benjamin. I remember you are somewhat like Amelia's sister, right? I smiled politely. I did indeed live in the Morgan household. Someone else chimed in. If you're feeling unwell, you can rest for a while. Having Benjamin and Amelia here is enough. I turned to look at Benjamin. Is that so? Benjamin took a long time to respond, so long that I wanted to break free from his grip. Sensing my movement, he tightened his hold around my waist. Benjamin looked up at the person opposite, his tone slightly chilly. No. The other person awkwardly averted their gaze. Amelia's smile froze on her face. She lowered her hand, her expression turning sour. I gave her a slight smile, deliberately ignoring the resentment and jealousy on her face. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, someone quickly changed the topic. Everything returned to normal. The little incident just now seemed like it never happened. They conversed as if nothing had occurred, naturally excluding me. There were no harsh or malicious words. It was just conveyed through looks, attitudes, and actions. You don't deserve to stand by Benjamin's side. You should obediently make way for Amelia. Chapter 12. After the banquet ended, Benjamin should have gone home with me. Amelia pretended to feel unwell. He hesitated, looking at me. The night wind scattered my words a bit. Go ahead. He leaned in. I'll be back soon. I smiled indifferently. I had once used the same tactic on Benjamin. How did he respond to me back then? I lay in bed, and Benjamin looked at me with furrowed brows, saying, Eva, things come in threes. Amelia always seemed to innocently and conveniently steal Benjamin away from me. He could never see through Amelia's poor acting skills. Subconsciously, he always believed in Amelia. Benjamin didn't come back at night. In the early hours of the morning, I received a call from him. He was silent, and I could hear his breathing. I asked. Why aren't you speaking? Eva, I won't be coming back tonight. Is she in serious condition? Benjamin sounded somewhat surprised, as if he didn't expect me to inquire about Amelia. Amelia had an allergic reaction to something, just came out of the emergency room, still receiving 4 fluids. My tone was sharp. Is the hospital lacking doctors and nurses? Or is it that the Morgan family can't afford to hire a caregiver? Benjamin's voice sounded weary. Eva, she had an incident at the Waters house. I see. He didn't say anything. Such forced reasons. I closed my eyes. Do as you please. I hung up the phone, a sleepless night. Chapter 13. On the 3rd day, Benjamin returned home looking weary from outside. As he entered, I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, organizing the photos from our past travels. Many photos, 3 full albums. I always used to like capturing every moment we spent together with the camera. I looked at him, the same suit jacket from 3 days ago, the shirt inside slightly wrinkled. It seemed that he had diligently been taking care of Amelia at the hospital for these 3 days. There was a wordless exchange between us. I lowered my gaze. You're back.
Yeah.
That evening, the brief tension seemed to have passed as if nothing had happened. No one mentioned Amelia again. But some scars couldn't just heal by being ignored. I poured a glass of water for him and he glanced at the photos on the table, casually asking. Looking at old pictures again? Just felt like taking them out and flipping through. Suddenly, I spoke up. I've thought of my birthday wish. What is it? You owe me from 2 months ago, have you forgotten? Benjamin paused for 2 seconds, then he stared at me. I haven't forgotten. Then next month, accompany me on a trip again. I'll be very busy during this time. Didn't you say you would only get busy after a while? Benjamin avoided my gaze. I suddenly realized. If it wasn't about work, then it must be about Amelia keeping him busy. Breaking promises again? I probed him angrily. Is it about work or? He took a deep breath. All right, Eva. There will be plenty of time to travel in the future, these few months won't make a difference. My thoughts drifted. Time? But I didn't have much time left. In the near future, I would only be able to sit in a wheelchair or lie in bed. My throat felt dry. You can't spare even a week? His voice softened. Wait for me a few months. I whispered. Understood. You always do this, making me wait time and time again. Chapter 14. Benjamin knew I was upset and tried to appease me by lightly kissing the corner of my mouth. Eva, I have to go abroad for a few months. For what purpose? He didn't answer me immediately, instead continued to kiss me. After a while, slightly out of breath, he replied. There's hope for Amelia's leg rehabilitation over there. I've arranged contact with a specialist and need to go meet them in person. I pushed him away. The earlier kiss wasn't an apology, it was a request. Benjamin, do you still remember that I am your wife? His tone was earnest. This is the last time. I stared at him, and Benjamin's disheveled bangs covered his eyes as he looked down. After a long silence, I pondered many things. After 6 years, the time had come for the final answer, fine. Nothing mattered anymore. The time for my departure had also arrived. Benjamin hurriedly left with Amelia. Even their luggage was packed by his assistant upon their return. He only came back hastily to see me one last time before turning and leaving. Tears still couldn't be contained. In the end, all you left me with was your back. So, this is what it feels like to give up. Chapter 15. Benjamin didn't know, before they left, Amelia had come to see me. Why are you here? I held onto the door, not intending to let her in. She sat in the wheelchair, smiling at me, her face filled with the joy of victory. Eva, won't you invite me in for a seat? Amelia called out affectionately, yet she was still so hypocritical. There's no one else here, you don't need to pretend in front of me. Furthermore, I don't need to welcome uninvited guests. Amelia's gaze fell on me. What if I told you Benjamin sent me here? I didn't respond to her words. After she woke up, we met only a few times. But every time, her words revolved around Benjamin. Amelia's smile remained unchanged. I heard Benjamin doesn't usually come home much. It must be quite lonely living in such a big house all by yourself. Speaking of which, if it weren't for the car accident 6 years ago, I should have been the mistress of this house. Leaning against the door, I calmly spoke. It's a pity, but the fact remains that I am the one standing here today. As long as I don't divorce Benjamin, you won't step foot through this door. After all, it's always the third party that people despise. A hint of resentment flashed across Amelia's face but quickly returned to normal. And so what? You. I cut her off, leaning in close and speaking coldly. You're flustered. What? I also smiled at her. I said you're flustered. Amelia, you don't need to be fake and you don't need to show off in front of me. If you were 100% sure, you wouldn't be here today. Amelia's expression darkened briefly but swiftly returned to normal. The one who isn't loved is the third party. Wait and see, Eva, this time I will win. Indeed, I won't win. But from the moment I decided to completely give up on Benjamin, I won't lose either. I just couldn't stand the sight of Amelia's relaxed, confident face. Chapter 16. After Benjamin and Amelia went abroad, he would message me every day. Due to the time difference, he often messaged me in the middle of the night. I saw every message but never replied once. He never called me, knowing I was angry. It was the same as before, Benjamin was never good at coaxing people. No, he just wasn't good at coaxing me. He might still be waiting for me to make the first move, just like before. The night before he left, I couldn't sleep and sat on the balcony, feeling the cold wind blow all night. I still remembered when Benjamin first decided to marry me, almost everyone he knew didn't approve. No wedding, no guests, no blessings. I didn't fit into their circle, but Benjamin introduced me to everyone with no hesitation, shielding me from all the gossip, giving me all his care and respect. He was quiet and reserved, far from being a romantic person. But he knew how to occasionally create small surprises in our married life. He was like a shooting star that brightened up my almost dim 22 years of life. At least, before Amelia woke up. Unfortunately, stars only briefly pass through my world. Those who have to leave can't be forced to stay. I left the home we had lived in for 6 years. On the day of departure, the weather was fine, a bright sunny day. I didn't take anything, just my identification documents. The ring I had worn for 6 years, I placed it on the bedside table along with the divorce agreement. Benjamin would see it at a glance. When it came time to sign, I didn't really think much. Just made the final decision to leave cleanly. I think, in this lifetime, we probably won't meet again. Chapter 17. It's been 10 days since arriving abroad. After settling Amelia, Benjamin went to the overseas branch of his company. In fact, he didn't really deceive Eva. In the past 6 months, the company's overseas business expansion meant that even without Amelia's rehabilitation, he would have to go abroad for a while. Benjamin absent-mindedly dealt with his work, occasionally glancing at his phone. These past 2 days, his eyelids kept twitching. Almost 10 days, and Eva hasn't contacted him once, nor replied to his WeChat messages. This wasn't right. In the past, even if they quarreled, the silent treatment wouldn't last more than 5 days. When Eva calmed down, she would, as before, find him to make up. And he would also follow the steps Eva gave to reconcile. This unusual behavior from Eva made him uneasy, and at the same time, a bit confused. He had his assistant in the country check Eva's recent activities. Leaving, what does it mean? Benjamin didn't react at first. The housekeeper aunt went to clean up, found the wife's wedding ring on the bedside table, and also what? A divorce agreement. Benjamin stood frozen in place. Impossible, how could Eva bear to divorce him? He booked the earliest flight back home. The room seemed unchanged, as if Eva's warmth still lingered on the blanket. Nothing seemed extra, except for that wedding ring and the divorce agreement. No, Eva is just giving me the silent treatment. Benjamin dialed Eva's number, only to hear the continuous voicemail prompt. At 29 years old, he rarely felt so lost. He searched everywhere Eva might have gone, but found nothing. A genuine panic of losing Eva began to spread within him. "Oh, sir, when cleaning out the closet the other day, I found an unfinished bottle of medicine and a few photos in one of Madam's clothes. This medicine didn't look like the usual ones we have at home." Benjamin took the bottle from the housekeeper, setting the photos aside. For some reason, his unease grew stronger. He called his friend Nicholas at First Hospital. "Lirazzole? Isn't that a common drug for treating ALS?" "Benjamin, who is using this drug you mentioned? This disease is much more painful than others." Chapter 18. Benjamin's face was blank, not responding for a while. He remembered all of Eva's abnormalities over the past 6 months. Her thin figure, the burden in her eyes, even 2 unusual falls. The bottle in his hand was now deformed from his grip, and he trembled as he spoke. "It's Eva." There was silence on the other end of the line for a long time. "Benjamin. There's an expert in this field at Second Hospital. Let me contact them for you. Don't be too pessimistic, even though this disease can't be cured, try to extend the remaining time as much as possible." Benjamin became somewhat stunned, his breath almost stopping. He felt like he couldn't understand Nicholas's words. His entire body felt drained of strength, slumping on the bed. But now he didn't even know where Eva was. Benjamin's nose suddenly felt a bit sour. His hand touched the photos at the bedside, and he absent-mindedly picked them up. 6 years of marriage, 6 photos in total. Every anniversary, they would take a photo like this as a kind of ritual. Later, Eva had neatly hung all 6 photos on the wall above the bed. But now those photos were clearly gathering dust, and he had no idea when Eva had silently taken them down. He flipped the photos over, his hand pausing. Each photo had Eva's neat handwriting on the back, something he never noticed before. "First year. I finally have a home, and it turns out I can be this happy too. Second year. Spring has arrived, and Benjamin took me to many places I wanted to go. I think I'm starting to like spring. Third year. Benjamin asked me what wish I had, and I said I hope we don't get divorced. I want to be with him forever. Fourth year. I want a baby, one that's a mix of him and me, but Benjamin always says there's no rush. That's fine, let's wait until we both stabilize our careers for a few more years. Fifth year. I think we can continue to be happy forever. Sixth year. Amelia woke up. Benjamin read through Eva's words slowly, word by word. For a long time, his eyes moistened, his body trembling uncontrollably. He should have known earlier, he should have known. The reason for Eva's increasing silence over the past 6 months. "Eva, where are you?" He was too confident and too arrogant. Thinking that Eva would never leave him. Chapter 19. His voice choked up, and suddenly he thought of someone. Mia, the only friend Eva had more private contact with. He dialed her number, urgently speaking. "I'm Benjamin, I'm looking for Eva." "Why are you calling me if you're looking for Eva? Don't you know where your own wife is? We had a little disagreement, and now I can't find her." Mia laughed disdainfully. "Are you sure it was just a little disagreement? Have some shame, don't have one foot in and one foot out. If you can't let go of your first love, then stop bothering Eva." "It's not like that." His defense was feeble and pale. "If it's not like that, then why have you been running to the hospital every day after she woke up? Has Eva seen you more in this past half year than Amelia has in total?" Benjamin was speechless. Mia sarcastically added. "Don't come up with so many excuses. Benjamin, stop pretending to be deeply in love. If you had even an ounce of consideration for Eva's feelings, you wouldn't have anything to do with Amelia." If you two are truly clean, forget about Amelia being crippled. Even if she died, it wouldn't concern you. Benjamin felt a growing sense of anxiety that Eva would never turn back. I'll explain things to Eva myself. Where is she? Is this your attitude when asking for help? Mia was about to hang up the phone, and Benjamin panicked, speaking urgently. Please. I beg you, tell me where Eva is. She's seriously ill, can't be delayed. I know she may not want to see me now, please help me tell Eva, I was wrong, ask her to come back home, I'll wait for her. Mia still insisted she didn't know where Eva was. I don't know where Eva is, all I know is that since she chose to leave, she wanted to be far away from you. If you have time to think about how to disturb Eva, why don't you go ask the Morgan family first, ask Amelia, ask them what they did to Eva. Chapter 20. Benjamin choked up. What could the Morgan family have done to Eva? He only knew Eva had been adopted by the Morgan family, but he never delved deeper into Eva's past. In an instant, many things that he had previously overlooked seemed to come to the surface. He had someone thoroughly investigate Eva's past. He didn't know how he ended up flipping to the last page of the report. A surge of bitterness rose in Benjamin's throat, overturning everything on the table. No wonder, no wonder. The Morgan family had never treated Eva well. It seemed like her existence was only for someone else. He had initially thought Eva was just concerned about his past with Amelia, even blamed her for being willful. What did Eva feel every time he chose to be with Amelia, chose to believe Amelia? She must have been very disappointed in him, so disappointed that she didn't even want to tell him she was sick. Clearly, she feared facing death the most, yet she chose to bear it all alone. Benjamin harshly slapped himself twice. What had he done? Benjamin went abroad to see Amelia. You're here, Benjamin. Why didn't you say you were coming back to the country? Benjamin stared at her, his eyes bloodshot. Have you privately contacted Eva? Amelia's smile froze. Why are you suddenly asking about this? Benjamin asked. What have you said to Eva? Just catching up, that's all. Veins popped on Benjamin's forehead as he pressed closer. Amelia, did you really treat Eva like your sister? Amelia's expression stiffened, her smile forced. What do you mean, Benjamin? I did indeed treat her like my own sister. But you also saw that she doesn't care about the Morgan family. Is that so? Benjamin threw a thick stack of documents in front of Amelia. Amelia's face grew paler as she hastily flipped through the papers. No, it's not like that. All of this is fake, Eva forged it to deceive you. Don't let her deceive you. The things written here, I personally investigated them. Amelia stared at him, her face turning a bit gray. And what about it? If it weren't for the Morgan family bringing her back from the orphanage, giving her a meal to eat, she might not have even survived till today. She grabbed Benjamin. Is it wrong for me to fight for my own happiness? Benjamin, I truly like you. We were supposed to be together, that thing Eva, who was born to a mother without a father's care, what right does she have to compete with me? Amelia's bitter words pierced Benjamin's heart like sharp needles. Rage consumed Benjamin, he pushed Amelia away with all his might. Benjamin looked at her coldly. I found out something else. You were already involved with another senior before breaking up with me, weren't you? Amelia was speechless. She suddenly laughed. Are you so perfect? If you truly loved Eva so firmly, you would have noticed these things already. Can you say you never wavered for a moment? Chapter 21. Benjamin suddenly recalled Mia's words. She was right, he wasn't entirely innocent. Benjamin's voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. You're right, guilty, damned, it's all on us. Amelia suddenly lunged at him like a mad woman, then uncontrollably fell to the ground. The boiling water from the nearby kettle spilled all over her. A sharp scream pierced through the entire ward. Nurses rushed in, Benjamin left without looking back. He didn't intend to let the Morgan family off so easily. A friend called to advise. Are you really going to make things difficult for everyone because of Eva? He didn't listen. As if this could redeem and save. In less than a year, the Morgan family went bankrupt. Now they were the universally condemned scapegoats. Amelia's legs, due to another accident, could no longer support her. She kneeled in the rain crying, begging Benjamin. Benjamin, I was wrong. I apologize to you, to Eva. Save me, spare the Morgan family. Her father tried to save the company from crisis, wanting Amelia to marry a 50-year-old real estate tycoon. That real estate tycoon was embroiled in several sex scandal incidents. His previous wife died under unsavory circumstances. Looking down on her, Benjamin said, "This ending suits you perfectly. Eva, would you be relieved?" Chapter 22. I returned to Z City. This is where I was born, my true hometown. I contacted Mia. She is probably the only person in this world I want to have contact with now. We, in a way, are destined. We both came out of the same orphanage, once worked in the same company. We accidentally found out about this while working and became friends who could talk about anything. Later, she got married and returned to Z City. She was luckier than me. She met a very good adoptive family. Her adoptive parents loved her very much. She married a good man. Her husband entered politics and gained some power. That's why Benjamin couldn't find me during this time. I told Mia about my illness. She was angry and heartbroken, crying all night holding me. Why did you hide it from me for so long? I wiped away her tears. I guess I didn't want the only person I still cared about to be sad and worried for me. That would make me sadder than the illness itself. Mia accompanied me in Z City for nearly a year. My condition deteriorated faster than I had imagined. By the end of that autumn and the beginning of winter, my limbs were completely paralyzed, and I could only lie in bed all day. I thought I would never see that person again in my life, but unexpectedly, we met for the last time. Benjamin found me. One early morning, I heard Mia's angry voice at the door. "How dare you show your face here? My wife is inside." Benjamin's voice sounded pained and weary. "Eva has nothing to do with you anymore, get lost, you're not welcome here. I'm here to take Eva home. Can't you understand human language? Do I have to get someone to kick you out?" Benjamin's face looked a bit unbearable, but he still stood at the door, unmoving. "I'll take Eva and leave." "You?" Hearing his voice again, I remained calm. "Mia, let him in." "Benjamin, at this point, why be so stubborn when clearly nothing can be salvaged?" He visibly hesitated upon seeing me. "Well, I must look quite terrible now." He stumbled towards me, a look of helplessness on his face that I had never seen before. Benjamin, with red, tear-filled eyes, knelt by my bedside, then held my hand tightly and buried his head. I felt the dampness in his palm and heard his unfiltered sobs. "Eva, I was wrong, please don't leave me, come back home with me." "No." I answered without hesitation. Chapter 23. Eva, I'm sorry. I know everything now. Is that so? Benjamin's gaze on me was intense and focused. Didn't you say you wanted to go see the snow in Hokkaido? Get well, I'll take you. I forced a smile. But Benjamin, I don't care anymore. I don't care how nice you are to me now, I don't care about your belated affection. I once tried to find any remnants of your love for me in you. But now, seeing you look at me with eyes full of me, I just don't care anymore. Because I don't love you anymore. Eva, let me stay and take care of you. No need, please leave. Eva, we are husband and wife. I said coldly. I'll say it again, no need. You've seen the divorce agreement, right? Benjamin's face fell, he lowered his head. I don't agree. If you want me to leave in peace, then sign it. Benjamin hesitated, his eyes filled with pain. I looked at him calmly. Do you remember you owe me a birthday wish? I only have one wish now. Benjamin laughed self-deprecatingly. Eva, do you hate me that much? I don't hate you. Without love, there is naturally no hate. Fine. Benjamin's tone was earnest. I promise you. But let me stay, Eva, I just want to be with you. Please, leave. Mia couldn't bear it and suddenly spoke up. Eva has let you go, why are you still shamelessly lingering here? Don't you sincerely want Eva to recover properly? Benjamin's face paled, and I turned away, refusing to look at him anymore. I could sense that my cold expression was piercing him, but I didn't care. He forced a smile. All right, I'll leave first. You focus on getting better. I stopped him. This will be the last time you break your promise, right? The figure in front of me stiffened, and in a soft voice, he said, I won't. Chapter 24. After Benjamin left, Mia took me to another place that same day. Before long, my condition deteriorated even further. Swallowing became difficult, and speaking was a struggle. Mia came to my bedside to feed me, looking at me with aching eyes. Eva, why don't we listen to the doctor and consider a feeding tube later on? No, Mia, don't do any invasive treatments for me. Mia cried. But. Promise me. She turned her face away, reluctantly nodding. Mia continued to massage my hands and feet as usual. Although at this point, it seemed futile for me. After the massage, Mia tucked me in. I looked at her, feeling a tinge of bitterness. Mia, I want to see our old photos. Mia quickly brought the photos, neatly arranged in 2 large albums. We were lying side by side. Talking about the past was all about nostalgia. I strained to turn my head to look at her. I'm sorry, Mia. We promised to travel the world together, and now I can't keep that promise. And thank you. Mia broke down in tears, hugging me tightly. The pain was that we were both powerless. Mia closed the albums, looking at me with sadness. Eva, is there anywhere you still want to go? I gazed at the sunset outside, pondering for a moment. It's truly beautiful. I managed a faint smile. Let's go to Kunming, they say it feels like spring all year round there. I won't make it to the next spring. So, I wanted to see spring one last time. Chapter 25. Even though winter had arrived, the weather in Kunming was still relatively warm during the day. I enjoyed the feeling of the sun shining warmly on my body. At first, we rented a short-term homestay near Dianchi Lake. Every morning, Mia would push me to the park to see the red-billed seagulls. These seagulls were not afraid of people. Perhaps it was because I visited so frequently. Occasionally, a few seagulls would land by my feet and affectionately nuzzle me. Mia held my hand tightly. Eva, it wouldn't be bad to be a seagull. Watching the seagulls flying in the sky, I remembered my decision to have my ashes scattered in the sea, which I had instructed Mia to carry out. Mia, I regret it. I actually fear loneliness quite a bit. So after I'm gone, find a grave to bury me in. That way, I could have some company beside me. Mia didn't speak for a long time, but I heard the choked-up sound behind me. Okay. I had Mia take a few photos of me. During this time, I had lost a lot of weight. In the pictures, I sat in a wheelchair surrounded by many seagulls. My face seemed more animated. I recalled all the places we had visited in Kunming. Every scenery was within sight. Mia, it's truly wonderful to be alive. 2 months later, I was completely unable to speak, and breathing was becoming increasingly difficult. We moved out of the homestay. At the end of January in the new year, I passed away due to respiratory failure. Only one step away from the true spring. Chapter 26. When Benjamin heard about Eva's news again, he was once again too late. He only saw the cold tombstone. Mia hated him to the core. Did Eva leave any last words? Mia clenched her fingers, then suddenly grabbed his collar, her eyes filled with icy fury. What do you want to hear? How wronged she felt. How sad. How resentful. Or do you want to hear about how much she suffered in her final days? Too bad, Benjamin. When Eva left, she couldn't speak at all. Every word from Mia felt like a knife carving into Benjamin's heart. He opened his mouth, but couldn't make a sound. Benjamin lowered his head, feeling difficulty in breathing, the wind stinging his eyes. It would be good to go with Eva like this. Mia's grip loosened, turned away, her body tense. Benjamin, Eva originally wanted to be buried in the sea. Do you know why she changed her mind? Mia's voice was soft. Eva said she was afraid of loneliness. You never truly let Eva into your world. Mia's words felt like the final judgment upon Benjamin. He remembered the countless nights over the 6 years of marriage when Eva sat under the light waiting for his return. He recalled the many times he left her behind, her suddenly dim eyes. The last look she gave him before going abroad. It seemed like despair, like a farewell. Tears were definitely salty. But why did they taste so bitter in his mouth? Chapter 27. Upon returning home, he took out the divorce agreement he had kept for so long. Eva's writing was clean and decisive, as if without hesitation. Trembling, he signed his name. The 3rd month after Eva left. One day passing by a park not far from home, he encountered an elderly couple Eva had helped before. The old lady asked eagerly about Eva. He looked dazed, very softly replied. Eva, she went on a trip. The old lady seemed disappointed. Is that so? Well, when Eva comes back, can you ask her when she'll bring me the osmanthus cake we agreed on last time? Benjamin could barely hold back and could only escape in embarrassment. Back home, immense sorrow and regret swept over him like a raging flood once again. He still couldn't accept Eva's departure. Benjamin fell seriously ill. When his assistant noticed Benjamin hadn't been to the office for 4 days, they contacted Benjamin's friend. Upon opening the door, Benjamin was leaning near the entrance. His face was pale, covered in cold sweat. Nicholas was shocked and hurried over to help the person on the floor, but Benjamin's body temperature made him recoil his hand. His shirt was soaked through with sweat, and it was unclear how long he had been sitting there on the floor. Nicholas cautiously checked for breath near Benjamin's nose. Thankfully, he was still breathing. Benjamin, why aren't you going to the hospital with a fever? Are you just waiting here to die? Benjamin, in a daze from the fever, asked. Eva, you're back? Nicholas, exasperated, said. Don't lose it now. Benjamin, seemingly not hearing, persistently said. Eva, is the ginger soup ready? Every time I have a fever, you always make it for me. Nicholas, at his wit's end, said. Get a grip. Eva has been gone for 3 months. Benjamin seemed to finally understand and murmured. I forgot, you didn't want me a long time ago. He suddenly lay on the ground, unable to speak through his tears. Chapter 28. Nicholas, seeing his friend's tears, also stood frozen in place, feeling defeated. Before today, he had no idea how much Eva's death would affect Benjamin. When he woke up again, all Benjamin could see was the snow-white ceiling above him. Nicholas immediately advised him. Benjamin, she's gone, tormenting yourself won't bring Eva back. Benjamin's voice sounded hollow. I know. Because he understood more than anyone else, he would rather be in pain than be awake. He didn't want to detach from a world without Eva. Nicholas fell silent and finally advised. Just live your life well. On the road to the afterlife, she probably wouldn't want to see you. Benjamin covered his eyes, tears sliding bitterly to his lips. Yes. Eva was so stubborn. Once she made a decision, she would never look back. Just like how resolute she was when she loved him at first. And just like her decisiveness when she completely gave up on him later. After being discharged, Benjamin found out where Eva had last stayed in Kunming. He began to watch the red-billed seagulls day after day. Eva's final world, as seen through her eyes, was like this. Benjamin still returned to work at the company. Everything was the same as before. Except, he never stayed overnight at the office again. No matter how late it was, he would always go home. Eva, I'm back. Silent, with no reply. But he didn't mind. Clearly, he hadn't thrown away any of Eva's things, they were all still there. However, the scent of Eva in the room was gradually disappearing day by day. Perhaps it's because the owner is no longer here. He lay on the bed. Tears silently slid down his face once again. It's okay. In his heart, he thought. Eva, this time it's my turn to wait for you.
Benjamin Extra Story. Chapter 1. Are patients with late-stage ALS in pain? What? The doctor seemed to not hear my words clearly, so I repeated myself. 6 months after Eva's passing, I found her former treating physician. The doctor and I talked for a long time, and he explained in detail. There were no effective treatment options. Medication was just prolonging the inevitable. Due to individual differences in constitution, the development and manifestation of the disease vary among individuals. But what can be certain is that no matter what treatment method is used, the pain that ALS patients endure in the late stages is unimaginable to ordinary people. That day, it was the first time I shed tears in front of someone else. Later, I did a lot of research on my own. I completely fell apart. What's the difference between this disease and ancient forms of torture? Eva was diagnosed half a month after Amelia woke up. What was I doing at that time? I was busy with company matters, comforting Amelia, and accompanying Amelia through rehabilitation. And after that? After that, I rarely went home, rarely spent time with her. Often, I hastily left her because of a phone call from Amelia. I didn't fail to notice the sadness and dimness in Eva's eyes each time. I didn't have time to contemplate what emotions were contained within. Or perhaps, I wasn't willing to delve deeper into those thoughts. Having Eva by my side was enough. Chapter 2. Amelia and I were already in the past. Initially, it was just out of guilt. Eva didn't know, but I was probably half responsible for Amelia's accident after our argument and breakup. She had the accident while driving drunk after our fight. So when Amelia woke up and asked me to accompany her through a year of rehabilitation, I softened my heart and agreed. Sometimes, facing Amelia would bring back memories of the past, and indeed, occasionally, there would be a moment of confusion. But my feelings for Eva were genuine. I never thought of divorcing Eva, that's the truth too. I fell in love with Eva, not because of her face resembling Amelia's. To me, they were nothing alike. The first time I met Eva, that stubborn, rebellious glint in her eyes struck my heart. That was the beginning of love at first sight. I thought Eva only minded my past with Amelia. Eva always went along with me, I thought she would never leave. If only I had been more perceptive, maybe everything would be different. In the end, it was simply that I didn't care enough about Eva. It took me nearly a year to find Eva. She didn't want to see me. To not disturb her recovery, I agreed to leave first. Little did I know, that was our last meeting. When I found Eva later, all she left me was a cold tombstone. Her smile on the tombstone was light and gentle. I can't remember the last time I saw her smile like that. Mia chose a great place. I think Eva would have loved it too. I visit Eva every week. I can spend a whole day in silence, just watching the sunrise and set. Suddenly, I always have this illusion that Eva is still by my side. One day, while tidying up the room, I saw 2 large photo albums stacked in the corner. I knew we took many photos during our travels. But I hardly looked at them, always seeing Eva flipping through them. One photo was left out, showing our last trip together. I turned over the photo, and it had Eva's handwriting. Next time, let's go to Nyanki. My heart stung again. I remembered the last time she asked me to travel, the faint hope in her eyes, but in the end, I never agreed. In March of the second year after Eva's passing, I went to Nyanki in Tibet alone. I knew why Eva wanted to go there. Nyanki was beautiful. Peach blossoms covered the hills as far as the eye could see. Everywhere I looked, it was picturesque. Eva, spring has arrived.